Welcome to the romantic, dangerous, and adventurous world of the ancient pirates. For years, people have been fascinated by these notorious criminals, but how much do we actually know about their lives and era? Let's start with where they came from. Many pirates started out as sailors after being coerced into it by press gangs or being seduced by the prospect of cash and excitement. But the difficult circumstances and injustices they encountered at sea frequently drove them to adopt a life of piracy. With long trips, harsh penalties, and meager compensation, sailors in the 17th and 18th centuries had it tough. Many people turned to piracy as a form of rebellion and as a means of escaping the harsh reality of life at sea after growing tired of the abuse and the lack of opportunity. But how did a pirate actually live? Preying on ships in search of wealth and treasure was an exciting and dangerous way of life. They founded their own societies on distant islands, where they would split the spoils and lead a life of inebriated excess. They primarily targeted ships from European countries, including those from their colonies as well as Spain, Portugal, England, and France. These pirate towns were frequently tucked away in bays and coves that were inaccessible to naval vessels. Port Royal in Jamaica, Tortuga in Haiti, and Nassau in the Bahamas were among the most well-known pirate settlements. But it wasn't just for fun. Many pirates contracted illnesses like scurvy and dysentery. Pirates have evolved into the stuff of legends thanks to stories about hidden wealth, phantom ships, and paranormal abilities. But the truth of their life was frequently very different from what the myths portray. For instance, the infamous pirate Blackbeard was a cunning and brutal captain who utilized intimidation techniques like burning fuses in his beard to make himself seem more menacing. He was an expert at psychological warfare, and his mere reputation was enough to make his adversaries shudder. However, there were other well-known pirates who were renowned for their daring and tenacity, such Calico Jack and Bonnie. In addition to being criminals, they were also folk heroes and representatives of the fight to oppression. Pirates were adept navigators and sailors who took advantage of their familiarity with the oceans and ship management. In contrast to the heavily armed Navy ships that pursued them, they frequently used smaller ships that were faster and more maneuverable. They used cunning strategies like flying fake colors to trick their prey. They were constantly one step ahead of their pursuers because they had a thorough understanding of the water and the winds. The heyday of piracy came to an end as the 18th century went on. Piracy became more difficult as a result of stepped-up naval patrols and tougher legislation. As a result of numerous captures and hangings, the romanticized image of the pirates started to disappear. But their memory endures thanks to the tales and lore that still hold people's attention. The past is filled with adventure, peril, and romance in the tale of the pirates. But it also serves as a stark reminder of both the brutality of the pirate trade and the terrible reality of life at sea. Even though these men and women were misfits and outlaws, they also stood for a challenge to the status quo and served as a symbol of freedom for those who desired a life away from the norm. Limits imposed by society. They carved out a place for themselves in history despite being rebels and outcasts. Their pirate havens and communities, like Nassau, Tortuga, and Port Royal, served as temporary autonomous zones where pirates could rule themselves and adhere to their own rules rather than just gathering spots for looting and revelry. But that is not where the tale of piracy ends. From the Caribbean to the Mediterranean, to the shores of Africa and Asia, this story spans centuries and continents. And although the heyday of piracy may be over, piracy per se has not. Pirates still prowl the waters today, preying on ships and endangering lives. However, the myths and traditions that continue to enthrall people today preserve the memory of the ancient pirates. They were misfits and criminals, but they also posed a threat to the status quo and served as a metaphor for freedom for those who yearned for a life free from social restraints. Thus, the next time a pirate story is told, remember that behind the myths and legends, there were real people who lived and died by the sword and the sea.